Behind every remarkable front stage performance is a team of ordinary people combining their talents to create extraordinary results. Join us as we go behind the curtain of selling homes and helping agents build better businesses to discuss the ideas, the principles, and the strategies that empower our Century 21 support team to maximize their potential and thrive in their unique abilities. Welcome to the Backstage. Okay, welcome back to our backstage conversation. Dylan here. You guys know me, I have an accent. Have you noticed it's fading quite aggressively lately?
Yeah, it is.
I've been saying can't and stuff like that.
I have noticed.
It's not cool, please.
When you stop saying staff and you say staff.
I said staff yesterday.
Yeah, oh, it's a problem.
I got angry with myself.
You're Americanized.
It's the one thing that makes me me. Without this, I'm just
You're
everybody
assimilating. Welcome.
Wait a minute.
Oh, wait a minute. Restart.
So help me out, guys. I'm going to try and be me again.
Okay.
Who are you?
Abbie.
Hi, Abbie.
I'm Anna.
And Vic. And I also have sometimes like a little bit of an accent.
Yours
I just
is
say
thick.
funny words more so. They don't make sense.
You're getting
but
Americanized too,
a
though.
little bit.
Yeah.
Yours is thicker than mine.
Yep. I'll keep it.
Okay, and what I need is more South Africans to talk to because I think that will help me, but I have none of them. I have an American family. I have an American team. I live in America.
It's true. When you
okay.
used to travel back, you would
I would
come
come
back
back.
with a thicker accent again. Yeah.
But I do want to say that this episode is not about me or my accent. It's been a while since our backstage conversations happened, and these are great and enjoyable. And so again, if you're listening and you're an agent, you need to leave now because this is.
Bye.
Talking about you.
Get out.
But if you also want to listen along, you're welcome to. So you can learn a little bit about what we think about as we work to help our people grow and become and love their jobs so that we can do better and better jobs for you. So,
Yeah.
our topic today, this is going to be an experiment because I know that we haven't prepped at all for this conversation. So we truly are just going to stand in a room and talk about something that we're wrestling through. Is that a fair way to put this?
Yeah, definitely.
It's something that I think we're wrestling through as a leadership team. I know we're working through how we do a better job of guiding our team and our people towards this idea.
Yeah.
And so let me just tee up the idea, bottom line up front. There's a distinction between team members that are given a set of tasks or a function or a role to do and fall into a rhythm of accomplishing the tasks
Yeah.
versus someone that embraces and understands and what we would call owns the outcome.
Yeah. Yep.
And owning the outcome for us is this magical space to get to because what it means is, you still follow the tasks, you do the things. And the easy examples here are we got a new listing that shows up. There's an agent that shows up and they turn in their listing. And there's a process. There's a set of things that we do. And this is true for any role anywhere in the world.
Yep. Yep.
But sometimes what happens is that a wrench gets thrown in or we don't have all the things we need or sometimes there's something unique going on in the world or this particular situation that makes it that if we follow the list, we actually don't get the outcome that the list was designed to accomplish.
Yes, exactly.
And so when you are a functionary is the word that I would use to describe this. A functionary is someone that they simply do the task, the job that's in front of them. Sometimes staying on script is exactly what we need.
Yep.
Other times staying on script actually is a failure. It's a failure to accomplish the thing that we're here to accomplish. And we sometimes fall into that trap.
Yeah, definitely.
And we are realizing as a team that what we need to do is empower every one of our team members, but also us as a leadership team and that's where I've got 7 items here that we're going to run through today.
Yep.
That I think we've landed on are the essential ingredients of owning the outcome of what needs to happen. But what I don't have is clarity on how to get all these things done. I think this is the ongoing journey that we're working through. So let me just stop there for a second. Owning the outcome is the promised land.
Yeah.
How do I tee this up with you guys? How would you think of owning the outcome versus task? What would you add to that description to maybe help explain problem as you see it that we tend to struggle with in various spaces. And what I love about this is we can be super honest in the sense that we're not like calling anybody out.
No.
I think just this week, we've all talked as in our leadership team even that we are struggling with areas of this. So it's a safe conversation, but it's also very vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think owning the outcome adds an element of people to a task. So tasks are often just on a list, and you don't think about how it impacts someone or all the other factors. So owning the outcome is putting all the little pieces together as you're trying to accomplish something or a goal or get a certain result, to me.
I didn't understand because of your accent.
Yeah. I figured.
I'm kidding.
I figured. So
I mostly understood, but say that again.
Maybe I
slightly
can say
differently, yeah.
Yeah, I thought about just my world, right? So I do HR and I have to process payroll. I have a checklist. I can go step by step. I have a system. I can literally just click buttons and everybody's going to get paid. But if I don't stop and I don't look and review, I have a list of ongoing things that are being thrown at me. Somebody changed a benefit. Somebody wanted a different 401k deduction. I want to fully own that what that task does is not just put money in people's bank accounts. It pays for their bills, their livelihood. That has to be accurate. That has to be timely. So it's adding the human element is how I described it, but maybe that's not the right way, but that's what it is to me.
Well, I feel like that's number 7 on our list. But I think you've touched on something so key.
Yeah.
When you don't care because what you're doing is a job, then you follow the list and you don't even somehow when there's a human being on the other side that you know,
consider the impact a lot more.
it changes everything.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the data on this. There was research on this. This was regarding doctors, and it was about analysis of X-rays for cancer, and the data was on whether or not they had met the people before. And the amount of oversights that occurred
when
they had not met the people was significantly higher than in the context that they knew the human being whose lungs or whatever they were assessing. Crazy, right? So that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. That's what owning the outcome to me is adding that in.
So imagine that Vic took a real human approach to this.
She just answered the way I would expect Vic to answer.
So how would Anna answer?
Well, I was just trying to think of in my brain how it's just it separates us from monkeys or even AI. Like we could have in our jobs, but even in the real world, you could hire people and things and robots and monkeys to do a task list, and they can pretty much stick to it. But if you throw a boulder in the middle of their path, you can write code to teach AI maybe how to work around
Your
it.
self-driving car just stops.
There's a difference that brings in that human element that you were talking about. It also, I think, gives you more space to learn about yourself. I don't know. Like I'm thinking about in the work environment, it's just not commonly accepted. You think you go to work and you're supposed to do your tasks. Like you should have your job written out by your employer that says this is what you do for your job, but it's actually a different idea to come at it from. Don't think about the tasks that are written for you. Think about what you're trying to achieve in your job, and so. Well,
the tasks are there to serve an outcome.
Yeah.
And if you're just a functionary, then all you really think to do is the task. When you're connected to the outcome, then sometimes you can rise above the task and go, wait.
It's a mindset shift. You could be okay with just doing your job.
Yes.
Minimum standard of, okay, technically you're doing fine. Or you could choose to care more and own the result. We talk about this all the time in marketing. You're like, okay, great, you made a piece of paper. Did anybody read it? Did it actually help somebody market their listing better? Did they get another client? What did it actually do for them? Like, you don't get the A+ just for turning in the paper, if that makes sense. Like, you have to care about what your work is doing.
We call realized value. We did this thing, but did the people we did it for?
I think it's a mindset. I think there's a lot of people who are okay coming in, not here, I'm just saying generally, like, I did my task list. Like, what more could you want from me? Well, a whole lot more. You could care a whole lot more and be even better every single time you do it. But that's maybe another debate.
Okay, so I want to jump into these 7 things, which we made up. So I mean, we could write a lot of books now with all the
could.
stuff we've made up.
We make up good stuff.
We do, but because we're passionately endeavoring to actually hack the code.
Well, and we're using ourselves as the experiment,
Yeah.
I think.
The monkeys are reporting from the lab. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I think I like robots better than monkeys.
Okay.
I like that because what a robot does is it's programmed to do a certain thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love the distinction between a robot versus a human. And what a human does is it knows the people and it knows where we're trying to go. And so the programming, it's almost like the difference between, I don't know how to describe this. I mean, our brains, we have neuroplasticity. When you're born, it's just a bunch of like mush.
Yeah.
There's a few things programmed into you, like your amygdala. Like if I hit your knee goes up. And if I drop a baby, its arms will flail out like this. But other than that, there's nothing. And then what happens is it starts to learn and it creates all these neural pathways. But it's adaptive.
Yeah.
And so that's what's different is we can adapt.
Yeah.
And we're not stuck on the programming. And if we bump up against the rock that you were talking about, we don't know what to do. And I suppose the cars will get smart enough to go around the rocks, but only if we program them
Teach
to go
them
around
to
the
be
rocks.
smart enough to go around the rock.
And how many rocks do you have to program into their path, to help them
How many
understand?
scenarios do you have to imagine?
Right.
Yeah.
So essentially what we're saying here is our goal for ourselves, but for every one of our team members, in the context of trying to serve the clients we serve, our agents and also our end clients, is that we become so clearly married to the big picture goal that we're actually trying to accomplish in every one of these engagements.
Yeah.
that we rise above following the protocol, and sometimes we violate our own protocol in order to get the goal. So okay, the 7 things. I guess let's do these one at a time, and then give me your feedback or thoughts on them. So, in order to own the outcome, the question, Vic, I think we started this conversation.
Yeah.
We said, well, how do we empower people to do
Yes.
this? Because so the word is empowerment.
Yeah.
And so the 7 things are the 7 ingredients we think need to be true. And maybe people listening can add number 8, 9, and 10. Yeah. But the first thing for someone to be able to own the outcome versus being task-oriented is they have to know the goal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know what it is we're actually trying to accomplish, then, you cut off at the knees right away. And the example that I think of with this, and then give me your feedback on this, is if we as a leadership team, or if I as an owner of a company bring people in and I just give them a list of duties to do, and I don't paint well the picture of what it is we're trying to accomplish and what the ideal outcome looks like.
Yeah.
The example would be if I give someone a set of lists on how to process a loop, but I don't clearly explain what an agent experiences in their day and why they might be missing certain things in a loop and what the complexities are, and that our real goal is to make them feel a certain way, feel supported as they're out hunting, right? For the sales that feed our family. If I don't accomplish that, then they don't know the goal. So the only goal that a team member could have at that point is, well, my job is to follow the process.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So know the goal, and the word is ideal outcome, because I think there's a difference between, the goal is to process the loop, right? The goal is to create the marketing piece for the team meeting. Yes. But the ideal outcome is further than just, it must be clear and legible and they can read it and they can understand it. It's got to be that it creates some affect in the person. The affect for a person turning in their loop is they feel like they can sell more houses because it's been made easier for them. The affect in the team meeting, Abbie, when I'm looking at you, is that the marketing piece we've created for them empowers them to have a new idea that they otherwise wouldn't have had. Yep. Mm-hmm. So know the goal is number 1. And I think this is something we've been working on as a crew when I think about each person's 555 and stuff like that. Numbers. How do you think we're doing on this? What would you add to know the goal?
Yeah, I think we're getting better, but I'm going to look inward and say that this is something I want to prioritize for our staff and myself in every task we set out to do. So that is why, as you said, this is about empowering. And I'm realizing that if you don't know where you're going, how the heck do you even take ownership of it? Like we have to get better at stating the goals. So how are we doing? I think we're doing better. I think we can do even better. I do conversations that we always have, and I just want to mention because maybe it'll help, but like magic wand, right? In a perfect world, those are things that we always say. And I think with this one, that's where we get to do that. So often we get to this point because there's an obstacle or there's a problem that we need to solve. We could go to our task list to solve it, or we could set the ideal outcome goal for what does that look like. So, yeah.
I was thinking as you were talking that it kind of goes for the person setting the vision out, but also for the person receiving it. So whatever that goal is, something that I know I've gotten better with over the years. I know early on I definitely wasn't good at it, but asking clarifying questions.
Seek to understand.
Yes. And saying, and even after being told, whatever the project is, I will now, it's probably annoying to everyone around me. I'm like, okay, to summarize. And I'll be like, and I will restate in my language how I interpreted the task at hand that we were talking about to make sure that we're all on the same page. And so, I mean, obviously the same is true as you're giving those instructions, but I'm just thinking as the recipient, one thing that is kind of a learned skill. Sometimes you feel like you can be labeled as stupid if you ask a lot of questions, but actually it's been very helpful to ask questions to make sure you understand what whoever is casting the vision is trying to say.
Is there more there? I've got lots of these, so I'm happy to keep going.
You can keep going.
Moving.
Okay, so we got another goal, and what I love that you said there is that's on us, and it's on the deliverer and the recipient. So Vic, you're saying we need to do a better job of creating clarity for everyone in our team so that they understand the big goal, not just the task. And maybe, Anna, what you're saying is, hey, help us, guys. Seek to make sure you do understand, because if you do, then when you hit the rock, you go, wait, this is in the way, but it's not a problem. Here's what I could do, because I could still get to C. I just maybe don't have to go this route.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, next is trust.
Yeah.
Maybe this should be at the end, but when I say trust, I mean no defense budget, one of our core values.
Yes.
So if people don't know what we're actually trying to accomplish at the highest level, but even in each of their respective roles, then how do you make empowered decisions to own the outcome? If you also feel like if you step out of line, if you get off the script, if you don't follow the checklist, and you take a creative step in order to try and provide a solution, but it falls flat in its face, or maybe it still works, but you're like, I violated the protocols. That would be, I have a defense budget. I'm scared that if I don't, so it's actually safer maybe to just keep bumping up against the rock. It's safer to say, I can't turn this loop in until I get this signed. Than it is to say, okay, well, hold on, I could get this turned in. I could get the outcome we're looking for, and then find a creative way to get the signature that I need. If I don't believe that the people above me and around me have my back, that would be having a defense budget. So number one, know the goal. Number two, trust.
You just have to experience that. Like you have to stick your neck out once and be in the moment of like, oh wow, I didn't get yelled at, or I didn't get in trouble, or like, because you're just not going to believe it until you believe it, right? And we're obviously we don't deal with legal documents or commissions, so it is much like I'm always telling them you should ask for forgiveness, not permission. It's a lot easier for marketing to do that.
That's exactly what I just wrote down.
But you truly do have to have that oh crap moment of like, was that the right choice? And then you learn from it. You didn't make the right choice, but you get to learn why it didn't work out, or you go, wow, I took a risk and it paid off, and I feel more empowered to do it again if I hit a roadblock or need to think creatively next time. But you're just not going to believe that that's true until it happens, I think.
That requires good parenting.
And we can keep saying it, but until someone is actually in that seat.
Which we've seen many times, people freak out because they screwed something up. And then...
Which you'd rather have that reaction, right? You'd rather have like, oh man, I didn't want to mess this up.
Yeah, they're concerned. But I will find myself a lot as in my position now where I have people that feel like they don't know as much in situations where I'm like, hey, you can't ruin the system. I'll do everything I can when I've given the instructions so that they know I'm on your side. And sometimes even saying that on the front end helps them feel a little more empowered throughout the task. Because I know that they're going to run into situations where they have to use their own brain to make a decision. Do I go left or right on this particular thing? And so if they know on the front end, I'm on your side no matter what. And also you can't break the system. Like it's meant to, we can undo whatever you do.
It's a growing up of thinking.
Yes.
I don't have to ask permission to decide what I'm going to do every single day.
And not all situations are like that, but using some of those little situations can help when you come on a bigger one to know, okay, they're on my side. Yeah.
It makes me think a lot about parenting. I'm like, because it maps so perfectly. You have to teach your kids rules at a certain age, but then at some point you teach them that the rules are really just there to keep you safe. The rules aren't the point. Staying safe is the point, and having a life where you can flourish is the point. And sometimes there are contexts where breaking the rules that were initially there to keep you safe is the smartest thing to do. Good example, somebody, I don't know, breaks a bone, like I might drive over the speed limit, you know? There are times where the rules are actually not the point. But good parenting does establish rules and protocols, but it creates enough trust where, and maybe knowledge is the right context here, that you understand the point of the rules. I don't know if that's written here. But if you understand why do we follow the protocol this way, it kind of helps you understand that the protocol is not the point. It's the thing that we're working to accomplish. The reason we have this checklist is because this way we don't forget these things in the loop.
It's a little bit of 4 C's. I feel like I've talked a lot about 4 C's with my team lately, and I mean, and maybe it's a side tangent, but like as your capability and your confidence grows, you're not afraid to take risks, and you're not you do trust more in your team and whoever's around you that, you know what, I did try my best to get this done, and I think you know that about me by now, that I didn't just, go my own way.
Okay, so you gotta know the goal. You gotta have trust, and the next thing I believe you gotta have is permission. And maybe that's what this podcast is about. Maybe what we're saying is, guys, follow the script, but also when the script's in the way of accomplishing the obvious goal, sidestep.
I mean, permission with bumpers. Right?
What's the
common
bumpers?
sense? Permission with common sense.
The bumpers is what we just talked about. Is actually like there's some knowledge. There's some when Anna says you lay out all the rules, all the things.
There's some non-negotiables.
There's some non-negotiables that has to be
there.
There
are certain things you guys can do that I actually go to jail for.
Yes, exactly.
But everything else up for debate, right?
I mean, yes. Do deposit into the right bank account.
But what I mean by permission, because what I wrote here is that we've got to give people the space, and we've got to let them know that they're allowed to.
They have to believe that they have permission. Again, it's kind of like the trust thing. Like you can tell somebody till you're blue in the face, but they have to actually internalize that and go, okay, I'm going to do it, or I'm not going to do it. I think.
As we go through this, it would be helpful to examples are helpful. It's tough because we always go like loop processing.
Yes, we do.
We picture the agent showing up at 4:45 on a Friday with a new listing.
Yes.
And they need it up and like, or a document that's missing something. It's Friday afternoon and we're like, we can't turn this in. We're missing a document. But it's Friday, and that means that the seller is going to be massively impacted. The agent's massively impacted. So now what do you do? Like how do you get the outcome? And it's tricky because you would be violating a protocol that is there, that's intentional, like the speed limit keeps people safe.
But that's also understanding what the protocol is. So that's what I'm saying with bumpers. That protocol is actually there to protect our staff, not to, that's not actually the ideal outcome, right, for our agents. So like there's a protocol, now it got very specific in my head, but listings by 3 p.m., that's the protocol. Anything after 3 p.m., we can't guarantee it gets done. But most of our ASCs do understand, that is just not the ideal outcome for our agents, especially on a Friday. Like, and I still have 2 hours. I can get this done. So,
well, that might tie into number 6. We'll see. So know the goal, trust, permission, which I think is different than the next one, which is expectation. So permission means you're allowed to. Expectation, I think, is bigger. And it's, no, this is part of the job. Like you following the list and bumping up against a rock like a Roomba all day is like you offending our client by not helping them sell a house.
I think people get stuck there and defensive there because it's really easy to revert to, but I did what I was supposed to do. I did what my job was to do. I made the piece of paper. I followed the checklist. And that is where you get into gray thinking with people who are very black and white, that's where it's hard to, expectations may be a good, I've always struggled with like, well, how do I verbalize to you? Well, you just have to think in the gray without saying it that way, because that's not helpful to someone who's very...
Your first job description is not to follow the list. The list is there to help you get the outcome.
Yeah.
The outcome is to help our agents sell houses or whatever your various job descriptions are. The expectation is first to get that done. The other expectation is here's the process that we will follow as a general. So I think expectation is harder. I'm back to parenting. Permission says, hey, like, if you need to, you can sidestep the rock. Expectation says, hey, dummy, like, of course you're supposed to sidestep the rock. If you don't, you're dropping the ball for the team.
Yeah.
It does no one any good for you to just stand there staring at a rock that happened to fall in the way. So I like your feedback there.
I actually think we can be better there about closing the feedback loop with people and saying, no, this is an expectation. Because it's, you feel bad because they're like, but I did what I was supposed to do. And you're like, okay, you tried your hardest. Okay, great job, but like, actually, I'm not going to call him a dummy, but like actually, no, you were supposed to do that. So what do you need next time now to make sure that you have permission to ask for forgiveness?
Leave it to Abbie, our resident cynic. She will just call you a dummy.
Well, and that is back to no defense budget actually a little bit. So when people do mess up, that is part of the conversation we have. Okay, so what did you learn and what do you need now next time so that it doesn't happen again?
It's so beautiful because we can use our ASCs as kind of an example of this journey. You teach an ASC the tasks first.
Yes.
They have to sit in the job to actually understand that the outcome is different than completing the tasks.
You have to learn the rules before you can break them.
Exactly. And so I recall many, many years ago, no longer here, we had a newer ASC that had learned agents are supposed to scan, in the hub, we have our agents scan their checks into the ASCs and they will get processed by a certain time. And one of our agents, a busier agent, had come in on a busy closing day and said, hey, I'm busy, here's my checks. And the ASC, newer, didn't know any better, but was like, oh, right here's the scanner, go. And I remember we witnessed it and we actually had to use it. We used it as an opportunity to be like, hey, by the way, yes, it does say that the agents are supposed to scan it to you. However, the agent's busy. They need to go out and sell more houses. So here's what we actually expect you to do in these situations. It was it's just such an ideal way to paint the picture. Poor ASC. Sorry, you guys get to be the guinea pigs.
Well, and just so they don't all freak out when they listen to this, I mean, we still would love for our agents to scan their checks.
But I do think all of our ASCs have been here long enough to understand that, hey, when an agent walks in and they're frazzled and they have 15 other closings to get to, by all means, they will take that check and take
the ultimate goal is to help our agents serve their clients and sell more homes.
In marketing, our big thing is we're going to teach agents how to do, right? But when someone reaches out and you know their story, right? So I'm like, I know that they have like 10 transactions going on. I know that they're emailing us from the road right now because they're whatever. I'm like, just offer to do it for them. Just say, hey, I would love to help you get that ad up. Let me make it for you today.
Okay, after expectation, I wrote resources. And specifically what I meant is the time and the money. So when you get up against that rock, but you've got 4,000 other things you have to do today because other people also have that expectation of you. If you don't have the time, then I suppose you just move on to the next file.
You revert to the list. Yeah. It's the easy because you feel like you can be more efficient that way.
Well, I got to get the other ones done. And then when I say money, what I mean is, and again, I keep using the same example, but I think of examples in the hotel industry where every person has a small but real budget that they're allocated, that at any point, if they have a client, a customer of the hotel, that there's something they can do to create a marketable experience, they've got money that they can access in order to spend to do something. Buy a teddy bear, do whatever you need to do, right? But if you're in a role as you're a part of the janitorial team or the room service team or whatever it is, and you've got 50 other places, rooms you got to clean, and no one's ever told you, oh, by the way, there's $50 a week that you've got that if you need to use it to do something special for if they don't know that, it's not fair for a leadership team to expect anyone to think to come up with that. Because it's not their money to spend.
No. Right?
So whether it's money or time, I do think that it's on us to ensure that our team has the resources to step out of line and and to create the outcome that we need to create, understanding that is the line.
Yeah.
The line isn't the line. The line is to create the outcome. So resources is huge. And I don't think we've done this that well because our people are busy.
Yeah. Yeah. Abby and I just talked about that word a little bit. We want to ban it.
What word?
It's easy for busyness to
Busy.
be
An excuse.
It's real. I
It's
think
real.
everybody's always busy, right? But
Yeah.
it's really easy for it to be an excuse to not do more.
And to not
Or
own the
better- or
outcome.
just be better.
It's an excuse to just do the task instead of because there's enough time. I gotta just get through it. I gotta get through it.
Yep.
Instead of thinking
Slowing down.
about
So
the full picture.
sometimes there's a true lack of resource. Sometimes
Yes.
there's no money. Sometimes there's no time.
Yep.
Many times there actually is. You just haven't taken on the
Or you're not willing to consider what you then have to trade off.
Yeah.
Like what could you ask for help on? What could you do tomorrow instead of today?
That's exactly what I actually think our leadership team has done pretty well lately. I've noticed, like, we will share our burdens a little bit. Like, oh, hey, I'm working on this for so-and-so. And if we say that out loud, 9 times out of 10, somebody else will be like, oh, hey, I'm working on something here that might help. Let me just text them that idea. Like, there's just this sense of ownership when we can share a little bit of that burden when we know we're all stretched thin. Or if I happen to know that someone has
trusting the people around you, your
Yes.
coworkers.
It goes
to say,
back to
hey, I need your
trust.
help. Can you help me with this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting
It's
one.
hard. It's hard. Nobody likes to give away their toys.
No.
Nobody likes to give away responsibility, but
Because you feel like you might be failing, but
or you don't trust the other person's going to do it the exact same way you do it. But
that's actually
You
why I
need more
think we've
time.
done really well in leadership is that we know each other's gifts.
yeah,
And like, I know that like if I need help with something design wise, you have an eye for that, Abby. If I need someone's having a heart issue, I go to Vic, you know?
But that's because you guys sit in a room every Monday morning together.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if you're in an office somewhere and you're isolated
yep.
Yeah.
and no one's had this conversation with you and no one's told you there's a $50 budget and
Yeah.
Yeah.
you've got it's easy to understand how our team can not think
Yeah.
Yep.
that my job, there's an expectation, I have permission,
Yep.
I can trust that they'll have my back. And
Well, they don't feel empowered.
empo-
That's why we're
that's
here.
exactly the word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to keep staying them all, but I feel like I feel like these need to be written down somewhere as well. Know the goal,
They will be.
trust, permission, expectation, resources, and then I wrote know-how.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I meant, but because it could mean several things there.
Yeah.
Know-how could be the actual technical skills. So earlier on, Anna, you said, I think it was you, there's a context where you might not know why we do something a certain way. You know, we had an example of this recently, thinking about, what was it? It was in the TC world regarding title opinions and abstracts. You know what I'm talking about? If someone doesn't know that there's alternatives because they've not been cross-trained in other markets, for example,
Right.
it's a technical lack of just technical capacity.
Yep.
Yep.
But know-how could also be know-how on like problem-solving skills.
Yep.
Is what I kind of mean by that as well. So if all I know is to follow the list and I don't know about alternatives and I've not been trained at a technical level to understand like what might be going on in this person's mind, I don't know what agents actually deal with. I don't understand why this Friday loop not being processed would have a major impact.
Yeah.
That's what I think I mean by know-how, but I think if we don't have the access to information and technical understanding of the process and the problem,
Yep.
then we're limited in our capacity to come up with creative solutions.
Yeah.
When you said know how, one of the first things I thought of was just how to start. And maybe that's not, but I'm thinking of recruiting. So like you and I have have a big recruiting project right now, and I had to have a moment of honesty in front of you and say, there's so many pieces to this. I just don't even know how to start. Like, what do I do first? And what's most important? And how do I break this up? And how much time? And you were like, great, that is a great place to start. Let's start there. Sometimes the thing is just unknown or so big or scary that you just don't even know how to start. Like, okay, technically I know how to do these I know how to build a website. I know how, but like as a whole, I don't know what to do with this initiative or task or project.
Yeah, where to start. I think know-how too, though, is the skills for me a little bit. So whether they are practical skills or they are EQ skills, so the problem solving. But
Maybe it's just knowing who to go to say,
Yeah,
hey,
and
can
you
you
gotta-
help me think through this,
Yeah.
or
That's good.
where should I go for information on this, or
toolbox, maybe,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
toolbox either in people.
if you don't
or-
know who around you can you start with and say
Right.
what do you think of this?
Yeah, who is
Who.
maybe the biggest question there, because
Yeah.
especially
I
if
need
I'm
help?
isolated
Yeah.
and not knowing who to even ask
Yep.
is a big problem.
Yep.
And the final one is care. You gotta actually give a rip's too big. What I mean by care is I can understand and have empathy for team members or employees of companies or businesses around the world where my job's a job. And if I bump up against this big rock and it's Friday at 4:45 and I don't know the person and I'm not connected to them and I feel disconnected from the company because I don't feel like the company's got my back.
Yep.
And it's just here to make a profit and I'm just a cog in the machine of what would you say? What would the
Actually, I have a thought. I'm writing it down.
I'm not
really
going to
quickly.
say what I was going to say. It was political. Yeah, but I can understand why. It's a lot of work to stick my neck on the line, to step out of protocol
Yeah.
and come up with a creative solution.
Yeah.
Do I care that much?
Yeah.
And I love what you said earlier on. Like once you know the people that we're here to serve, I think it's a lot
Yeah.
easier to do that. But also once you know that the organization and the team actually does want you to win. Like
Yeah.
when you feel like we care for you,
Yep.
then it's easier for you to care for us
Yeah.
or the company or the team or whatever it
Yeah.
might be.
Yeah.
So I wrote there 3 things. I wrote cared for. It's easier to care if you feel cared for.
Yep.
I wrote engaged, and what I mean by engaged is do you feel like your mission personally as a human being is connected in some way to where the company's mission? Meaning,
Yep.
if the company achieves its goals, I'm more able to achieve mine, right?
Yeah.
That's engagement in my brain. And then incentives is the other word I wrote there. Like,
Yeah.
do I have an incentive structure
I just wrote all of that down actually.
all of those 3?
Yeah, because I just told Vic I read a book this week about our by the Clifton Strengths people who wrote about coaching through strengths, and that was their definition of an engaged workplace is you work there full time and are paid a living wage, because without those 2 you're probably not going to stay at all, right? You know what the company's big vision and goal is. You know how your job contributes to that, and there is somebody at work who cares about you as a person and is developing you. And without that, none of the rest of that is going to apply, I think.
What should we
7
name our
things.
book that we're going to write?
All the things we read, putting together in one book.
That's a big book.
I was just thinking as you were describing care, Dylan, that like during COVID, how tricky it could be for businesses that maybe were unable to open their doors and employees were working behind screens for so long and
still
had to
going on.
engage with customers. Yes. And how I think it was an advantage that we had our team back in as soon as we could. And we know that the engagement, the personal connection, being able to look our clients, our agents in the eyes, and even nowadays, if I'm helping a staff member try to solve a problem, 9 times out of 10, I was like, did you pick up the phone and talk to them voice to voice? Because it's going to develop a level of care, of empathy, of understanding what's happening in the agent's mind. And so care is so critical. I can't imagine how companies are doing it with people still working from home, but I'm sure it's possible.
Well, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not. And that's why companies are coming to terms with this one by one. They're pulling people back into work environments because we're humans and we're tribal and we're relational. And the way it works is we build products to solve other human beings' problems. And when we strip all that out, then we just become a machine.
You lack purpose.
I think you miss the greater picture.
Yeah.
And I don't
Unconnected
think
to
that
something bigger.
works in the long term. I think it can work in the short term.
Yeah.
So help me take this home because, man, we've been going a while already. I'll start at the beginning again. I'll start at the very beginning. We're a company.
We sell real estate.
What is our big goal and vision, guys?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we have several, but we sell houses, and our clients are agents, and we get to serve the end consumer through our agents, and most of our interaction is with a bunch of rugged individual crazy people that sell houses, and it's stressful. And what we've been describing lately is they're out hunting, and we're the crew, the cleanup crew that like skins the deer and like preps the meal and does all that stuff. And it's not a bad metaphor. It kind of works.
Yeah.
And then we have processes, and we've built those processes and we've built those systems to help keep us on track so that it's efficient and it works and it's uniform and we know how to do what we do.
But it's easy to be, it's easy to be afraid and there's safety in the tasks, right? I know these inside and out. This feels like a small win. I'm scared to try the big thing or to stick my neck out or take the risk. And it's easy to let yourself be distracted or busy or to only focus on the process.
And the take home is
you choose to do that sometimes.
Value for us, value for me. I'll just speak for myself. Value for me is team members that are they follow the protocols until they need to step aside and find a way to get the thing done. And those protocols are constantly evolving.
Yep.
And we're not married to a set of processes.
We always say we make the rules. We can make them
Yeah.
whatever
We
we
do.
want. Yeah.
Well,
We can change them.
you can't write a handbook on some of that stuff. Yeah.
And so we really want to get better. We want to get better as a team at owning the outcome.
Yeah.
And the more we've got team members who understand that and are empowered to do that. And I think that's the big take home here is we're working on how do we empower the 30, 40 full-time team members that we've got to understand and embrace this. And I love where someone said empathy and theory of mind, which is we've been talking about a lot as a team, and we're coming back to that because I do think that's a big part of this as well. But I'm going to say them one more time because I want you guys to have these in your head. What we believe so far we need to do better is we need to help you all know the goal. What is it that we're actually trying to accomplish versus the task? We've got to keep working on the no defense budget thing because we know that if you believe we've got your back, you'll take risks to go do the right thing when we need to. You got to know that you've got permission. We want you to do what needs to be done in order to get the job done. And we want you to know that it's more than permission. It's an expectation. Like this is your job description. It's your first job description. Underneath that is the lists of how we do what we do. But never at the expense of actually getting the job done. We know we've got to do a good job of creating the space and the resources in order to be able to do what's most important. And maybe that's a conversation we all need to have as a team on what else we can do to create that space for you to ensure that we're getting the goal done. Technical skills, know-how, and then we understand that we've got to make sure that, you've got to care.
Yeah.
So we've got to make sure that you're motivated to care.
Yeah.
But you've got to decide to actually care enough about the outcome. And if you're that, you become incredibly valuable to any organization, anywhere, because you are more than a cog in a system. You're a value creator.
Yes.
And all opportunity lies on the side of value creation, and that's what we do here. And that's the difference between, I guess, us and robots, Anna.
Yeah.
Or
Nice
monkeys.
callback.
I'll give you guys just like a 30 seconds to a minute to give your closing thoughts on. You're shaking
I don't
your
know how
head.
to follow that up. I don't know.
Was that a good summary?
Yeah. I genuinely don't.
Okay, so nothing from Abbie.
It was so good. She's speechless.
Flabbergasted, yeah.
I think from my end, I wrote the beginning of our conversation, Dylan, you said the word adaptive, and I just feel like that word has stuck with me this whole conversation, because in my mind, it's just the perfect description of what is scary, but what we need and can, if you're able to adapt to the situation, that means you're rising above the task list, you're looking around you, you're taking the changing environment around you and the changing elements, and you could end up with a much richer, higher quality end outcome.
It's fun to solve problems. It's fun to move around rocks that you weren't expecting.
Yes.
More fun way to
parkour. Jump around it.
I like that
Side.
phrase, to
Not
rise
what I
above the
was
task
picturing.
list.
Yes. Rise.
We put that on the wall.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
I am so excited that we finally sat down and had this conversation because I can think of nothing better than empowering our staff to feel like they can own the outcome and really be part of our mission and not just do the task. So I will continue to have conversations where someone brings a problem to me. I'll say, well, what is the ideal outcome? What's the ideal solution? Let's talk through it and tell me where you're stuck. Now we've talked through it. So let's identify the issue so we can move forward.
Well, Vic, this is your baby.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
your
excited.
problem. Your job apparently is to make everyone empowered.
I'm excited.
And
I'm
so-
gonna do it.
Doing great.
So this started as just a chat between you and I think, and
Yeah.
I know that we've been wrestling through this, and so I hope this is the beginning of a lot more conversations about this.
Yeah.
If you're an Asian, you're listening along, I think this applies to you and your team members just as much as it does to
100%.
us.
Yeah.
But yeah, in closing, we care, we
Yeah.
believe in our mission, we're doing something cool, it's fun, and we really want you guys to win with us along the way. So if you've got feedback, thoughts, let us know.
Yes.
Otherwise,
Always.
we're looking forward to picking this up more, even at our staff
Yeah.
meetings coming up in a few weeks.
Yeah.
So thanks, everyone. Good stuff.
Thank you.